Let's take a look at how to train our model. So first of all, I have to create the data. Now in my case, I'm going to do image classification. So I have a ton of different images. What I happen to have is a collection of small little American football helmets. And I went and created a folder for each one of the teams that the helmets represent. And then I took a good 15 to 20 pictures of each one for the purposes of training and then the purposes of testing. And these are different images, but they're the same one. So you can kind of get an idea. Here's one of the images, and I just kind of rotate the thing around and get really every angle I possibly can. The more data, the better, really. So then once I have all of my data ready, it's time to go create a model and train the model. So first I want to let you know that I'm using Mac OS 10.15.1. I'm also using a version of Xcode 11.3.1, which is relevant because the way that we're going to get to the tool that I'm going to introduce you to is by going under the Xcode menu to open developer tool to create ML. So this is the create ML tool, which I find to be the absolute just no-brainer easiest thing you could possibly use to train a model. I'm going to choose a template. This is the image classifier, of course, is what we're working on here. So I'm going to name it and save that to the desktop. Now, so all that file is that you see on the right is just my project file for CoreML. So now what CoreML needs is training data and testing data, and honestly, it does the rest. So here, in my case, since they're images, I will go in and choose the training folder, and then over here for testing, I'm going to choose the testing folder. Now again, it's different sets of images, but they're all broken up into subfolders, and each subfolder name identifies what the image actually is, or what classification it belongs to. So now what I do is I just simply hit the train button, and literally that's it, and kind of watch it consume all of the different images. And now when the training is done, you see that we've got the testing begins, and you'll notice that it's testing the images that I have inside my testing folder. All right, so now both our training and our testing have been done, and you see that we've got an 80% validation and an 82% testing. Those are pretty good. Our goal, of course, would be 100. You'll also see that we have 4 classes, and that matches because in the testing and training data that I sent over, I had 4 subfolders, so each folder representing each class. So you'll notice that I've got different degrees of precision. So for 3 out of the 4 of them, we're in the 90s or higher, so I'm pretty happy with that. So now we actually have our model ready. So I can click over here, and I'm just going to drag the model out to the desktop. That is how we create the model. Okay, now that I've got my model and it's trained, I'm going to go into FileMaker. And what I have here is a testing layout. This isn't required by any means, but I thought this would be an easy way to kind of show you the different components. First of all, this is a container field. That's also a container field. This container field is where we're going to put the model. It's as simple as just taking the model that we output from CoreML and dragging it right into that container. And you'll notice there's a script called load model. So let's take a look at what the load model script is. So load model, the key here is the new script step, configure machine learning model script step. And it's looking in the container where we drop the model, and it's going to load that. And you see that name here, helmets, that's so that we can reference that model later. Then some other tertiary things, but the main thing here to look at is the loading of the model. Also, I've got another container field so we can test the model. I'm going to do that in a second, but you'll notice that we have a result, and I want to show you how I've composed the result. So first of all, here's a calculation that is using the new compute model function, and here it is referencing the model that we loaded. And then it has some other information, specifically where it can find that image inside that container field. I have a second calculation here that is creating an array of the return JSON data so that we can see the confidence percentage and see what information is being returned, along with what classification the test believes is correct. So let's get some testing data. I'm going to go into my test data folder, and I'm just simply going to drag something over there. And now the calculation kicks in, and I see the classification on the top. That is correct, and here's the additional information that was provided. What I really did is identified the highest one on the confidence and grabbed that classification value using JSON and placed it right there. Let's try just one more, and you'll notice that the calculation runs again, and it finds the highest confidence, and then parses that out. So that gives you an idea how we can actually parse this information. Now, how am I using this? Well, I actually have a script here that when called by Siri, it will take an image. So I'm going to actually take a photo. That's what insert from device is doing, and I'm going to put it into a. You see here, I've got this this container field. I'm going to use the camera, take a picture of one of these helmets, and then I'm going to set a variable. This variable is using the compute model function. It's referencing the already loaded model. Now, of course, you can load it manually like I showed you, or set it to load every time you open up a file now that it's stored in that container. So in my case, it's already loaded, and it's going to extract various pieces of information from it. And most importantly, it's going to pull the team name from the return JSON. And I'm going to save that to the result variable and then do a search. So essentially, by simply taking a picture of one of these helmets, it's going to go find that record in my database, and I'm going to call the whole thing from Siri. So let's go take a look at how that looks on the device. Hey Siri, what team is this? Hey Siri, what team is this? One last little piece here. Since most FileMaker applications are multi-user by design, you may be thinking, well, my shortcuts aren't. Well, first of all, they kind of are right on in your own account. So your Apple ID allows for cloud sharing across various different apps. The Shortcuts app also has that iCloud sharing. As a matter of fact, if you have iCloud sharing on, you can actually create an iCloud link to your shortcut. The iCloud link might look something like this, and like any other URL, what you could do is have a button in your FileMaker application that does something like this. Open URL, just paste the cloud link in here. Then when users click on your button, they will actually be prompted on the device to go to a screen that looks something like this. So you'll see that they can either open it in Safari, or they can actually just hit the button that says get the shortcut. Now, here's the trick. If they hit get the shortcut, they very well may get one of these messages. What team is this? That's the name of the shortcut. Can't be opened. Blah, 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 something about untrusted shortcuts. Well, that's because there's a setting, and this setting might not be visible unless you've tried to share a shortcut or load a shortcut. But if you notice under shortcuts settings, under sharing security, there's an area there for allow untrusted shortcuts. If you turn that on, so it looks like it does in this screenshot, then they'll be able to install it. Now, I've researched whether or not MDMs can do this wholesale across multiple different managed devices, but it can't because it's a security setting in FileMaker. So really, if you just instruct your users, or if you're the one installing these across many different devices, just turn on allow untrusted shortcuts for that brief moment while you're installing it, and then turn it back off when you're done after the installation. And then that way, users who are using your application can also install the shortcut on their individual devices and trigger the shortcut with Siri, and therefore interact with your FileMaker application through Siri as well. Hope you enjoyed this. Thanks.